Hey, what's going on YouTube? Welcome to the channel. I am FPV ShellShockD. Alright. I started this channel. I just want to document my journey into the FPV realm of drones. Alright, I've been flying drones for almost 10 years now. I have no experience with FPV at all. I've never flown FPV before in my life. Most of my experience comes from when I was a police officer. We ended up getting some drones. I got my drone license, and I flew Matrice 100s when they first came out. A few DJIs, Mavics, Mavic Pros, things like that. Search and rescue, stuff like that. I do own a drone business now. I do a lot of construction monitoring, and I document oil spills in the oil field as well. I've been doing that for about 2 years. Okay, FPV has always looked like a different world to me, and I've been increasingly becoming interested in it. So I figured I might as well give it a go. But instead of buying one that was ready to fly, I'm more of a hands-on kind of guy. I like to build things, so I decided I wanted to build my own. I wanted it to be custom, personalized to me, right? So let's get into it. I'll talk about the parts that I bought. I learned a lot about the parts and the building process through YouTube videos, various YouTube videos. So I kind of took bits and pieces from there and kind of threw a bunch of parts together. All right. So we'll talk about the parts that I chose. I didn't video me building the drone since it was my first one. So I took pictures, documented along the way. So I'm gonna be throwing some pictures and stuff in there, and we're gonna talk about the process that I use to build my drone. I'm about to pull up a picture here. I'm going to show you everything, all the parts that I bought to build this drone. Everything from the flame to the flight controller, motors, the props, the VTEX, the camera, the receiver, and the batteries. So let's start with the frame.
Here is a picture of all of the parts that I've got here together. So here's a picture of the frame that I chose here. It is a happy model, and I decided to go with the white. It is a 75mm frame. Next up is the canopy. A lot of these parts that I got are unnamed, so this is just a unnamed 3D printed canopy. I think it kind of looked cool. One of the videos that I was looking at used this canopy. I decided to go ahead and go with this one. Alright, next up we have the motors. These are unnamed motors, of course. This was on a YouTube video that I saw. A lot of these parts that I got are from AliExpress. So they're cheap. They kind of take a while to come in. So let me pull up the stats on these motors here. So they are unnamed motors. They're rated for 1S to 2S batteries. They're 3.7 volts, 7.4 volt, 1500 kV, tiny 14mm. 3-phase brushless motor, high-speed engine, 1.5mm shaft for RC drones. Next up, we have the props. I decided to go bi-blade. Some of the videos that I were watching were using bi-blades. I figured, hey, I'm a beginner. This is going to be my first time flying. Maybe it'll be a little bit easier with the bi-blades. So these here are Gemfan 1610 drone propeller 1.6 by 10 40mm 2-blade bi-blades, and these were actually the wrong props for the type of drone that I wanted to fly, but I'll get into that later on in the video. Next up, we have one of the most important parts of any drone. We have the flight controller. Okay, this one is a Beta FPV flight controller. It is the Matrix 1S brushless flight controller. It's a 5-in-1. And this is the same flight controller that is used in drones like the Air 65-2, Air 75-2, Meteor 65 Pro, Meteor 75 Pro, tiny whoop drones. This one, I like the drones that use this flight controller. During my research, a lot of YouTube videos that I've watched to use this flight controller, it seems like a good deal. I got it for a good price. So this is the flight controller I decided to go with. Here's the camera I chose. This is a Caddx AMT Nano 1200 TVL Global WDR OST 1.8 millimeter ultralight camera for tiny whoops. I wanted to go analog as my first drone. They're cheap, the parts are readily available, and I know I'm going to be crashing my drone, breaking parts a lot, so I wanted to start cheap. That's why I went with the analog.
All right, so those are the parts that I have for the drone. Next, we're going to go into the actual completed build and some of the mistakes I made along the way. Some of the things I didn't touch on was the VTECs, the receiver, things like that, the ESCs. Like I said, the flight controller is a 5-in-1 board, so the receiver is already on the board. I went with a ELRS receiver. VTEX is already integrated on the board and everything like that. I did pick up a couple of extra screws, little nuts and bolts in there. I'll throw that into the total that the drone cost me towards the end of the video.
Alright guys, so here's the completed drone, all built. I did go with a solder drone because I wanted to get the full experience. So I didn't go the solderless route, which I probably should have. Being a newcomer, I don't have a lot of experience with soldering. I do have some. But this is the completed drone here. We got everything hooked up. We got the props on. We got the motors soldered to the flight controller. All right, we got the VTEX connected. We got the camera inside of the canopy. And I like this. I was going for a white and black colored, and I think that worked out pretty good. I did run into a little bit of issues with soldering, not being fully experienced. Those pads are tiny. So I'm warning you right now, if you do take the solder out, those pads are tiny. You're going to have to take your time, be patient, maybe get a little bit more experience. But this is the completed drone here. Not bad. I like the way that looks. Alright guys, so next up I'm going to show you guys some photos and videos of my build progress. I hooked it up to Betaflight. I got it hooked up to my goggles, and I'm going to show you guys, when I powered it on. We're going to go through some pictures of me hooking it up to my goggles and some of the issues that I ran into along the way. I think I got some video clips as well that I'm going to throw in here. But I had an issue with my motors. All four of my motors wasn't operating properly. I think I started with one, then I got it to two, then three, then I finally got all four going. So we'll go into that. So as you last saw, I was developing a small fire on my flight controller, which isn't a good sign at all. Okay, so I took my drone apart, completely disassembled it. I checked all my solder joints. I try to remedy the situation as much as I can, but like probably I know, that small fire on that flight controller is a sign that I fried my board at some point. I don't know exactly what happened. I know I said those solder pads are really small. I'm not the best solderer in the world, so I'm pretty sure I probably bridged some solder joints, which led to that. The funny thing is, though, it took me about a week to get the proper props in. So before I had the props, I armed that drone. I hooked it up to Beta Flight. Everything was fine. But as soon as I got my props and I put the props on that next following week, that's when I developed the fire on the flight controller. Okay. Like I said, I don't know for sure what the culprit was, but I'm guessing I probably bridged some solder pads with solder is what caused it. So lesson learned on that. All right. So now I was left with a choice. I can either get a new flight controller, take everything off of this drone, put it onto a new flight control board, or I could just buy a drone that's ready to fly. Okay. So I broke down, and plus I wanted to see the cost difference. Did I save money building a custom drone, or would I break even, or would I save money buying one? So what I ended up doing, I ended up going straight to Beta FPV website, and I ended up getting a Air 75 2 Race Edition with the plug-in motors. So if anything goes wrong, I don't have to solder those little pads for now until I get a little bit more experience. I got that drone for 90 bucks. Okay, so now I'm gonna break down on what that custom drone cost me. All right, so it's looking like I bought all of those parts for that drone from AliExpress, minus the proper props for my drone, which I ended up ordering from Amazon. So, flight controller costing me $51.09. The 680 milliamp batteries, 1S, that cost me $18.15. Those no name mortars, my accent kind of comes out sometimes. Motors, the 1500 kV motors cost me $5.84 a piece. The Happy Model Mobula 7, which is the frames, that cost me $3.92 each. Those props, the bi blades, those gem fans, those costed me $3.64. And I'll give you the price of those 3 blades here in a second. The canopy cost me $3.94. The 3-bladed Beta FPV 40 millimeter 1.5 millimeter shaft props through Amazon costed me $12.69. So in total, this drone costed me with those bi blades $131.33. So if we factor in the correct props that I bought from Amazon, we'll add an extra $9 to that. We're looking at 141 bucks for this custom drone build. Okay, like I said, versus I got Air 75 2 Race Edition from Beta FPV for $90 flat, no taxes, free shipping. So I ended up spending about $50 more building my own custom drone with a lot of unnamed parts. So I'm sure you can probably find parts a little bit cheaper than I did through AliExpress or wherever. I'm just giving you something to compare with. Okay, so with that being said, my first build was a failure. Some of the lessons I learned, I needed to learn a lot more about batteries. I got lucky and I lucked out with the batteries. I got those 680 milliamps. I didn't know anything about them, and they're heavy batteries. A lot of people try to stay away from them, so I got lucky there. learn more about your batteries, what batteries you need. The props, learn about the proper props that you need for the type of drone that you have or the one that you're going to build. Look into the specs, make sure that you're ordering the right props the first time. And soldering, if you're not good at soldering, start watching some YouTube videos, start practicing, because I'm pretty sure my poor soldering skills is what fried my flight controller, which cost me what? The flight controller was like $51. So that's all down the drain. And now I can't fly my drone. I couldn't even get a first flight in. Okay, so sorry, I don't have a first flight for you. My first build was a failure. Hopefully, you can learn from my mistakes. When I do get that Air 75-2 race edition in, I will be doing an unboxing video on that, and I'll be able to get my first flight in as far as FPV. So hopefully you guys learned something from this video. Maybe it motivated you a little bit, and hopefully you'll stick around and you'll check out my first flight, my unboxing video coming up next. All right. So what are my plans for this drone now? Like I said, I could get another flight controller. I just went ahead and got a new drone. I might get another flight controller in the future once I get a little bit more experience under my belt, but I think of right now, I'm just going to keep it and display it with some of the other items that I have displayed. You know, this was my first drone build. Even though it was a failure, I learned from it, and it can be a conversation piece. It can be a motivation piece. Plus, it's pretty good to look at, so I think I'm going to hang on to it either way. All right, guys, so this is the first video. This was mission 001. It's a failure. Okay, we fried the board. Next we got coming up is going to be mission 002, the maiden flight, hopefully, right, with this Air 75-2. So I'll see you guys on the next one, hopefully. Keep those batteries charged, keep those props spinning, and I'll see you guys on the next pack. Peace.